Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our live stream. It's Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. Hope you had a great first half of your week and hope you had a great full week since I've seen you last. If this is the first time you've seen my face, my name is Amanda, and this is Once in a Wild. Once in a Wild is our company name, as you can see with our beautiful logo right up here above my hand. Once in a Wild is a mobile zoo, taking the zoo to you wherever you may be, whether that's your child's birthday party or a classroom visitation presentation for educational purposes. You can book us for all kinds of animal therapy sessions and office visits as well. And right now we're going virtual lately because of our situation. We're adapting as everybody is, hopefully, right? And we hope everybody's safe and sound and taking care of yourself, by the way, and that you are nice and healthy. So yes, so we are going virtual as well. And again, if this is the first time you've seen me, we also do offer Zoom room animal encounters, which are private versions of this encounter that you're going to see today. So thank you very much for joining us. Let's see who's joining in so far. I don't see anybody chiming in. This is a very interactive event, as always. All of our live streams are interactive, and we really love when you guys join in with your questions and comments and let us know that you're enjoying everything, and whatever you want to tell me, you can go ahead and chime in with those comments. We love to see everybody following and keeping track of what we're doing on Facebook. If you guys want to give us a follow on Facebook and YouTube as well, which is where we're broadcasting from today, and always on every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Central is when we normally do our live streams. Today we're having a snake live stream. We're talking all about snakes today, and that's all we have is snakes. We already have a snake right here. His name is Jareth. He is a desert king snake, and we're going to be meeting 4 other snake animal ambassadors today, as well as feeding one of our snakes at the end of our live stream today. So stick around for that if you want to see a snake eating. It's pretty cool. I see I have about 4 people watching. Hello, everybody. Chime in with your comments to let me know who's watching today, and I would love to see, because it doesn't tell me who until you leave a comment, which is kind of fun. So without further ado, I should say, let's go ahead and begin, shall we? Yay, Once in a Wild. It's good to see everybody so far. Who's chiming in? Yes, welcome to our live stream. If it's your first time, feel free to type in your questions and share with your animal-loving friends. Please share our videos as well as follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube as well as Facebook. That is a free way that you can help us out. We also do have donation options as well. I'm going to take this away temporarily. We are a free program on our live streams, of course. You can tune in for free and rewatch them for free as well. They do end up being uploaded onto YouTube the next day and Facebook the same day. But YouTube is my favorite way to rewatch the shows, but that will probably be tomorrow by the time it's ready. Usually YouTube takes a minute to get ready. But I did want to let you guys know that the show is free, but we do have donation options. Number one, I do want to make sure and point out before I forget, is our Amazon wish list on our website, which is onceinawild.com, which is displayed down below me. Onceinawild.com is where you can find all of our links as well as our Amazon wish list, which is a button at the bottom of that main page of our website. If you click that button, that's going to lead you all the way to your Amazon wish or our Amazon wish list, where we've pre-selected a whole bunch of animal items that are really helpful for us. If you do want to donate any of those items, they are shipped directly to our door, which is fantastic. And those are all animal care items that we've pre-selected that you can purchase for us and send to us. That's a great way to help out. Another great way is by tipping directly through Venmo, through Cash App, and through PayPal. We do have a PayPal as well, even though it's not listed down below. The Venmo is at Once in a Wild. The Cash App is $ Once in a Wild, and PayPal is also at Once in a Wild. So very easy to remember. If you can't remember any of those links or anything at all, our social media links are all on our website, as well as all the things I just listed. That's a very, very easy way to find out. If you ever have trouble, you can call or text my number, which is down below as well. Are you guys excited for a snake presentation? If this is the first time that you've seen me, sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and check my camera's timer really fast to make sure that that's all in order. We might have technical difficulties if I don't check that. So yes, hey Tanja, nice to see you, and hey Samantha, I'm glad you guys are tuning in, and I know both of you guys love snakes. I'm getting tongue-tied today, which is not a good sign. Alrighty guys, so this is Jareth. He is our desert king snake, and we're going to talk about him first since he's already out here on the table, so the surprise is over. He's no surprise, he's already out here on the table, right? I'm going to give a few more minutes for people to go ahead and take their time to get into the live stream to start tuning in. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about our Zoom rooms really fast. I always like to do that before I forget. So we do have a just a commercial that we've made regarding our Zoom rooms, which are basically like the live stream, only they're basically customized and they're private to you and your party or your family or whoever you want to invite to the Zoom, just like any Zoom that you can invite via the link for Zoom. But I'm not going to talk anymore about that. I'm going to let my other self do all the talking. It's me again, right? So we're going to show you guys this commercial that we made for our Zooms. How about that? Stuck in the house with nothing to do? Did your students miss their fun field trip that was planned for them? Are you looking for a fun team building activity for your employees that are stuck in the house with the same old Zoom meetings from day in and day out? Was your child's birthday party canceled this year because you're stuck in quarantine? Well, then we got the solution for you. Our Zoom Room Animal Encounters are a great solution for you. In Zoom Room virtual animal encounters, we can bring the zoo to you, but from the safety of your own home. They are fully customizable, and you can invite all your friends to join in and meet all the animals. They are fun, unique, and very interactive. It's also a great learning opportunity. And most of all, it's very, very simple. Just contact us to book your appointment and schedule your Zoom room. Then select the animals you would like to attend in your Zoom Room Animal Encounter, and then send the link to all of your friends and family who are invited to the Zoom room that we provide to your email. And best of all, we can bring the animals to anyone, anywhere, all over the world. So visit us at onceinawild.com or call us today. We can't wait to see you. Hooray! Does that make sense to you guys? I hope it does. So thanks, Past Me, for explaining all about the Zoom rooms. Zoom rooms are a lot of fun. We did one the other day for a girl's birthday party, and that was really, really cool. She really liked reptiles, and I really like reptiles too. So my favorite animal in the whole wide world is probably the most feared, hated, and persecuted animal on the face of the planet. It's snakes. Now, why in the world are people so afraid of snakes? Well, there's several reasons, I think. But let me know in the comments down below why you think that people are scared or apprehensive or maybe just ignorant about snakes. I think ignorance plays a whole lot of part in the fact that people are, the reasoning why people are afraid of them. So we like to basically make you face your fears. This is a great way to face your fears if you're apprehensive about snakes, right? And because it's virtual, so you don't have to worry about the snake really being in your presence. And snakes are wonderful animals. So the more you get used to them and the more you learn about them, and that includes any animal, right? Or anything at all that you might be scared of, the more you're exposed to that whatever that experience, then the more you're going to see that it is okay and you are safe and nothing bad's going to happen, especially here on virtual, right? So it's a great way to face your fears. So if you're facing your fears regarding snakes today, I really, really commend you on that. And remember, we are having a snake feeding today here on the program. Now, when I say live snake feeding, that just means it's happening live here on live stream. We don't feed live food items to our snakes unless we have to. That is something that we encourage all snake keepers to do, is to feed frozen thawed. Frozen thawed is always the way to go if your snake will eat frozen thawed. And I understand that sometimes snakes are picky and they don't necessarily eat well, so there are exceptions, but that is humane all around for all of your animals, including the eating animal and the feeder animal, if you will. So most snakes do eat rodents. So that is mostly what we talk about when we talk about snake keeping. Sorry for my adjusting my seat there. But I do commend everybody watching that might be a little bit apprehensive of our beautiful snakes for whatever reason. You tell me why, and maybe I'll help you learn a little bit and you'll be able to get over your fear a little bit. That is something that we also specialize in here at Once in a Wild, is helping people face their fears with snakes, spiders, bugs, scorpions, lizards, whatever it may be, birds, tortoises. Some people are afraid of tortoises. I don't know why, but that's okay. It's okay to be afraid of something. It's just not okay to then take action to harm the animal with no cause and no reason just because you're afraid of it, right? We don't encourage that, but we do understand that some people may be inexperienced with snakes or other animals. So being afraid of them may be just a natural response to being just inexperienced with that animal. So let's see what you guys have to say about that. But let me know what you guys think about snakes, whether you love them or hate them or something in between, and why that might be the case. Maybe you have a lot of experience with snakes and maybe you don't. I would love to know each and everything about all of my friends, family, and followers and all of our viewers watching. So hello, Samantha, once again. I know you love snakes because I know you personally, right? So you are a fan of them. That is really cool. And here's Tanja. Bring on the snake, she says. Yes, indeed. Ricky says heart eyes, so he must love snakes. So much fun. I assume you're talking about the Zoom rooms. Yes. Commercial break, yes, but it's a fun commercial nonetheless, and I do need to get that out of the way to make sure people know about that, because of course the Zoom rooms are a part of how we stay alive these days. So not gonna lie, COVID has been a huge hit on all small businesses, including us, and we're a new small business, so we were just getting started, and then this thing decided to happen this year. So we're doing our very best, and the virtual encounters and the live streams are the best way that we can still bring the zoo to you, but virtually, right? Pretty cool. Yes, so this may be a reason why people are a little bit apprehensive. I think that people end up being afraid of animals, or at least nervous about animals that are different than humans. Humans walk on two legs, and we certainly don't have no legs like a snake, and they're slithering on the ground or maybe in a tree, but most snakes we think of in our head, when we think of the word snake, we think of slithering on the ground. They move different than us. They don't have any limbs. Also, people are afraid of animals with lots of limbs like spiders and bugs, right? So yes, I think that's a very, very good observation, and definitely a reason why some people might be scared of snakes. Let's see. Oh, here we go. It's trained fear from their parents, and a lot of people do not take the time to learn about them. No, and a lot of it kind of is a vicious cycle, because if you're afraid of an animal, you're probably not going to take the time to learn all about them, because why would you quote unquote waste your time on something you're not interested in? You're afraid of it. You're probably just going to avoid it. But that's kind of human nature, unfortunately, right? We tend to avoid things that we are afraid of. We have a little bit of xenophobia, right? And that applies to all sorts of cultural things and animals and all kinds of things. We really should think outside the box and try new things, as long as it's nothing that's going to harm you. And I do understand that some snakes are dangerous. A lot of animals are dangerous, but for some reason, snakes end up being very, very feared and hated, because whatever, they're just different than us, right? And sometimes it is trained fear from a parent or another adult. They see that adult or parent reacting in a fearful way, screaming and running away, etc., and not in a positive way, right? And so they think, oh my gosh, I should probably have the same reaction because it's dangerous, right? So that is definitely trained fear. They see as an example from the parent. That is a very, very good point. Yes, I saw your typo. That is okay. You're among friends and family. Yes, and Ricky loves snakes for sure. And Samantha loves snakes too. Thank you guys for your comments. Okay, let's talk about Jareth since he's out here. He's actually going to be the snake that we feed today, so I'm not going to be handling him. Snakes, of all, well, I want to say almost every species of snake eats rodents, and we do have a rodent for him to eat here at the end. I take that back. Some snakes don't eat rodents, like sea snakes. They usually don't eat rodents, do they? They're going to be in the water eating things like fish. Some snakes eat more like lizards and things like that, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So this is a king snake. He is a desert king snake. These guys are found in the United States. They're not found in Texas. They're only found in a few states kind of towards the western half of the United States, not all the way west, but kind of central west, if you will, Midwest. And they are quite common out there, and they are a snake that eats a whole lot of things. All snakes are carnivores. There's no vegetarian or vegan or herbivorous snake, right? They all eat meat. So this type of snake is called the king snake, and there are many different species of king snake. It's kind of a category of colubrid, and colubrids are a category of snakes. Colubrids are kind of the leftover snakes, if you will. So we have things like venomous snakes, right? And you have constrictors, which are boas and pythons. And then you have colubrids, and you also have things like sea snakes. So there are several different categories, if you will, of snakes. And then there are species within those categories. So he's a snake, he's a colubrid, and he's a king snake. And specifically, he is a desert king snake. That is a species. These guys are found in the United States, like I said, and they are not picky eaters, especially Jareth. Jareth is not really a great handling snake anyway, but he's a great snake to show a feeding response, because he has one killer feeding response. And I don't mean killer as he can kill me. He definitely can't. He's harmless to humans. He may try to take a chomp out of my hand if he thought I was a rodent, and that has happened before. I'm not going to lie. He's not a great feeding snake, and I don't mean to scare anyone, but I don't handle him a whole lot because I've tried and tried to kind of tame him down for handling, and he just doesn't do the best. So we admire and appreciate him from behind the glass usually, or I'll bring him to presentations like this where we can actually do a feeding demo, and we'll do that here at the end. We'll give you guys presentations of all 5 of our snakes, and then we'll feed the animal. We'll feed Jareth at the end. You're the animal today. We'll feed Jareth the rodent at the end. That way it gives some people time to come on into the live stream if they want to see that. And also not everybody is comfortable with a snake feeding, which is why I always warn everyone, it's a snake feeding. Don't forget snake feeding today, but that'll be at the end of the program to give everybody a chance to learn about snakes, and then we'll feed. And if you are comfortable with that, awesome. It is your lucky day, and we're going to be able to watch that. Ricardo asks, why does your snake move around a lot? Well, he's a very active snake. So there are some snakes that don't move too much, and there are some that move a lot. And most snakes are on the nocturnal end of activity level. The later it gets, right now it's 6:30 p.m., it's 6:48 p.m. So the later it gets, the more active they become, honestly. And the hungrier they are, the more active they become. So this type of snake, the king snake, which I was trying to tell you earlier, king snakes, this is a desert king snake, but king snakes of all types, they are not picky eaters, especially this guy. Like I said. So king snakes are called king snakes because part of their diet is actually other snake species. So they are cannibals. They'll even eat their same species. So that becomes very tricky during breeding season, doesn't it? So that's another story. So it only has to be during that season that they smell the pheromones and hormones in the air, and they get little heart eyes of their own, like so. And then they start thinking of love instead of, I'm going to eat you for dinner. So that is very risky for whomever is the larger snake between the pair. That one's probably going to be able to eat the smaller one. If their sizes are matched, it's going to be a lot less likely that they're going to eat one of them's going to eat each other, or something like that. But especially if it's a smaller king snake, he or she will definitely try. But these guys are known for eating other snakes, lizards, mice and rats, birds, eggs, fish. Really anything they can get a hold of that they can fit down their mouth and into their belly, right? And certainly a rodent. So you're going to see that here in a little bit for sure. He is not a picky eater at all, for sure. Absolutely. So he's a pretty active species anyway. The king snakes are pretty active in general, but they will rest quite a bit, just like any cold-blooded animal or ectothermic animal. He's ectothermic, meaning that he doesn't have his own body temperature. So we're endothermic as a warm-blooded animal, right? Mammals of all kinds and birds of all kinds and other animals are endothermic, which means we are warm-blooded. We have our own body temperature, right? That's consistent most of the time unless you're ill or something's wrong with you. These guys don't have their own body temperature, and that is perfectly normal. So if we check his temperature right now, it would literally be the same temperature as the room, which is probably around 75 or so degrees in here, maybe a little hotter. It's actually probably maybe 77, 78 degrees in here under all these lights. It's a little bit warm in here for me. But anyway, he's going to be that same temperature, whatever the spot in the room is right now. And so when you have them in the care of humans, you either have to give them a warm spot to go get warmer if they're a species that needs warmth of any kind, which most of them do. But during the summer, they don't need a ton of warmth because they're a North American species and it's pretty warm in our house. So anywho, these guys, in most snakes in the care of humans will need some kind of heat source to be able to digest their food. So that's what they're going to do in the wild is they're going to go out in the sun or into a warm spot to warm up and digest. And if they're feeling too hot, then they go back in the shade and they get away from that warmth. And it's going to be very easy for them to regulate their body temperature like that. But they have to do it manually instead of automatically like us. But he's probably feeling a little hungry as well. He might be thinking, I'm in this enclosure right now, which is not my normal habitat. His habitat is much, much larger than this. I want you guys to know that. This is not the size of his normal habitat. It is much bigger behind the scenes. But right now it's easy to see and display him in this little habitat to be able to show you guys his feeding and him moving around and looking really beautiful right now. He is gorgeous, right? That speckling pattern gives them a bit of camouflage. And that's how they kind of hide away from predators and from their own prey. But that is why king snakes are called king snakes, is because they eat other snakes. So somebody got it in their mind that, oh, they're the king of snakes. King cobra also eats other cobras and other snakes too. Pretty cool. But a lot of cobra species, to be honest with you, actually do eat other snakes too. They're known for eating reptiles, including snakes and other lizards and things. Beautiful. Thank you. Me or Jareth? Me or Jareth. Either way, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So Jareth is gorgeous, right? He has that beautiful black head. He's mostly black, and he's got that yellow speckling on his body. Another name for this species is the chain king snake, because on his dorsal, which is the back part on his dorsal side, so dorsal and ventral. Ventral will be the belly. Dorsal is the back. On his dorsal, if you look at an aerial view, they kind of look like a little chain link, like this, little circles all the way down his back. So another name for the desert king snake is the chain king snake. Pretty cool. That's because they kind of look like they have a gold chain on their back. Isn't that amazing? Bo, thank you very much, Tanja. Ricardo's asking, do they eat big snakes or just small ones? Well, they're going to eat whatever snake will fit in their mouth, down their throat, and into their belly. So it would have to be a smaller snake than him, more or less, but they can eat a bigger snake than you think. It's pretty amazing. Snakes have the amazing ability to stretch their bodies out and expand a little bit. And sometimes they try for a bigger meal than they can handle. But snakes do have the ability to regurgitate if they have gone too far and eaten something too big. They can actually throw up just like we can, and they start over. Not great for them. It's not ideal, of course. It's also a defense mechanism. So many animals, including snakes, if they feel threatened, they might regurgitate a meal that they've just eaten because that meal that they just eaten has made them sluggish and slow and whatnot. And even like birds will do that sometimes, like vultures will do that as a defense mechanism. That's a great defense mechanism because they've eaten something really nasty. Their digestive juices are very, very strong because they are carnivores, obligate carnivores, only eating meat and no plant matter, right? Unless it's inside of that animal they've eaten. That's the only way. And they do digest the whole animal. A lot of people ask me if they spit back up bones or fur or feathers or scales of an animal after they've eaten them, kind of like an owl would do. So some owl, well, all owls and vultures and other birds of prey, they actually spit up a pellet or a cast. And that's going to be like the fur and the feathers and the bones and whatever that's not digestible to a bird. But a snake, he digests almost every little part of that animal, and then he's going to defecate just like most animals do. But they don't spit up bones, they digest the bones, and then whatever remains is just going to be a little bit of, you know, defecation and urination. And these guys actually urinate and defecate from the same place, and it's a cloaca, just like a bird. So they have kind of hard urates instead of urine most of the time. Sometimes they have more liquidy urine. It happens. Did you think we were going to be talking about poop and pee on this live stream? Surprise! I'm a zookeeper, so I talk about poop sometimes. So these guys do basically use the restroom just like most animals do, but they do have that cloaca system where it's one tract for eggs if they're females or live babies if they're another species, and urination and defecation. So all of that's going to come out the same place, but they do basically digest everything and they go to the restroom. Here's a good question. What is their average lifespan or life expectancy, right? So I believe the oldest of desert king snake was probably 30 something, but their life expectancy is usually 20 to 25. So like 23-ish would be a nice long life for a king snake. Now, Jareth, I believe we received him when he was about 3, and I've had him now for about 5 years, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he's around 8 years old, more or less, although we did adopt him without knowing like a hatch day or anything like that. So he's around that. So he's pretty much in his prime right now, pretty young. That is a great question. Most snakes have a similar life expectancy to for anywhere from very late teens to 20s. That is a very, very fair life expectancy, although some snakes do live longer. Some snakes can live as long as into their 40s. Some of your larger constrictors, including even medium constrictors like ball pythons, those guys can live into their 30s and 40s sometimes. That is actually pretty normal for them. They have a very slow metabolism. They don't live fast and furious like a king snake does. They don't have, I mean, they still have a slow metabolism for an animal, but for a snake, they have a pretty fast metabolism. Excuse me, I'm getting choked up about snakes. They do have a fast metabolism for a snake and for a reptile. So they tend to live a little less than like a big constrictor that's going to sit around and really not eat too often and just enjoy life and be relaxed. I hope that makes sense. So yes, he is cool, isn't he? Would you guys like to meet another snake? King snakes are one of my favorite type of snakes, and colubrids are my favorite snake category. So let's meet another colubrid. I brought a few of them because I have several of them, and they're my favorites. By the way, snakes are my favorite, if I didn't already say that. A lot of people do ask me what animals are my favorite, and snakes are definitely my favorite. I think they're so beautiful, so noble, and very easy to present. So here is Long. Long is a Mandarin word for dragon. So he is actually another type of colubrid. He's in the rat snake family, not a king snake. These guys are a Chinese beauty snake. So I named him Long, which is a Mandarin word or Chinese word for dragon. And he is just gorgeous, isn't he? He is not all the way grown. Now, when we talk about reptiles, they never really stop growing their whole life. They just slow down as they age. So we say adult size instead of full grown, but he is not adult size. This snake would be about as big as Jareth there, maybe a little bit more slender, but he's going to be around the same size. I don't know if you can tell the size difference between them right now on camera, but he is quite a bit smaller. These guys are also a semi-arboreal type of snake, which means they can spend some time on the ground and they can spend some time in the trees. He can climb really, really nicely. And this is a type of snake that will be found in high altitudes up in the mountains of China. So they are actually a pretty cooler weather snake. They don't enjoy hot temperatures. They are still considered like a rainforest type snake, but they're more up in the mountains and high altitudes. They like fog. They like kind of being up in the treetops and things like that, like I said, and they can come down from time to time to come to the ground as well. But they actually do very well in the care of humans with little to no heat because they like to be anywhere from the 60s, 70s, and maybe the 80s. It's summer right now, but he's doing just fine. They're very, very adaptable in the care of humans. And this animal, including, I believe, all of our animals that are here today, they all did not come from the wild. So that's what we try and strive for here at Once in a Wild, is to not support the wild-caught pet trade. We definitely don't want to be encouraging wild animals to be brought in and imported out of the wild. We want to leave animals in the wild. And that also goes for if you see snakes in your own environment, in your backyard, camping, etc. I do not encourage you guys, unless you are an expert, to go up and handle snakes. You might be putting yourself in a lot of danger, and you certainly might be putting the snake in some danger as well. So we do recommend leaving wildlife alone. But Long, as well as, I believe, this guy here, Jareth, like I said, he was kind of a hand-me-down snake, so I don't really know for sure. But as far as I know, they were bred in the care of humans. So I said all that to say that he's not used to China. He's used to being in the care of humans, indoors, and wherever temperature-regulated places are. So 60s, 70s, 80s are perfect temperature for this species. But that makes them a very, very easy animal to actually house because I don't have to worry about any extra heat sources. Isn't that cool? And that is coming straight from the experts that I learned all about their care. These guys do very, very well without any of those heat sources. Pretty amazing. So here's a good question, and I'm going to try to highlight it, but I'm a little tied up by a snake. From Reginald. Hello, Reginald. Have you ever fed him another snake or strictly rodent? So I never have. I do know some snake keepers that must feed their snakes other snakes because they won't eat anything else. But let me tell you, Jareth is the least picky snake I've ever met. I have fed him birds, so like chicks, so small chickens, basically. I have fed him those. I have fed him mice, rats. I believe I tried fish with him. I know I tried fish with other animals as well. I believe I did as well. And he ate I can't ever remember a time where he did not eat. If he didn't eat, I would probably call 911 and think that he was probably very sick. He's definitely not a picky eater whatsoever, but I don't have any reason to feed him snakes. You know, I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with that sort of thing if I didn't have to. But there are some snake keepers that actually do have to source feeder snakes, believe it or not, there is such a thing, to be able to feed some of their picky eaters because they don't want their animals to go hungry or not live, right? So sometimes those extreme measures are necessary, but no, I have not had to do that myself. Good question. Hi, Abigail, and hi, Keenan. It's so nice to see you. I see you have snakes right here in your profile picture, I believe. Those are snakes. Those are very, very pretty snake art in your profile picture there. If you guys are just joining us, my name is Amanda. This is Once in a Wild, and we're meeting a whole bunch of snakes today, and we are going to be doing a snake feeding at the end of the program before we say goodbye, which will be really fun. And this snake right here, Jareth, is going to be the one that's getting fed, so hopefully you stick around. Can you guys see these beautiful patterns on Long here? Our Chinese beauty snake. So this snake here, in case you guys were wondering, he eats mice. He might eat things like hopper and small mice. Hopper are basically like teenager-sized mice. So we basically feed, and this is all snake keepers in general, we feed an appropriately sized animal food item, right? Now, in general, it's good to have a little bit of variety, so mice and rats at least, or things like chicks, like I said before, chicken, but it would be chicks. So I'm sorry to break it to you, but it's baby chicks. But fun thing about chicken, If you guys eat chicken, and if you're vegan, I'm very sorry, I'm not including you in this. If you do eat chicken, the baby chickens are sometimes discarded. So those all actually usually go to animal food. So a lot of the chicks are actually harvested anyway. So a lot of those feeder chicks, if you will, which are newly hatched chickens that are euthanized, will actually go towards animal food in zoos and otherwise. So you can actually feed them. Oh, quail is another animal you can feed as well. I've never tried a quail with him because quail are a little bit big, although I think now, since he's a little bit bigger, he could probably handle a quail, no problem. And there's certainly other snakes in my collection that could handle a quail as well. So there are several options for sure. He is so beautiful. These guys do climb trees quite a bit, like I said. And let's talk a little bit about snakes in general. So snakes are fantastic animals. They are reptiles, of course. There are 4 categories of reptiles, and snakes are one of them. The other 3 are crocodilians. So crocodiles and alligators, those are crocodilians. You have turtles and tortoises, right? And then you have lizards. Those are the 4 main categories of reptiles, and many species within those categories or groups. So again, this is a Chinese beauty snake, and beauty indeed. They are gold and black, and kind of a greenish too, depending on the light. He almost looks like a garter snake at this age. Garter snakes are very common in the United States. Did you know that garter snakes also eat insects? So garter snakes, not this species, but garter snakes is look-alike. They don't get much bigger than this. They're not really going to get really anything this size, maybe a little bit shorter as well. But garter snakes will eat things like cockroaches, which I really appreciate because cockroaches can definitely infest, and they're not my favorite animal. They can carry diseases and cause sicknesses and things like that. So that's a very, very important job that snakes provide, and snakes do for humans and all kinds of mammals, right? They actually help control the populations of pest animals, especially rodents. Rodents are a big problem. If you know anything about human history, rodents have caused a lot of diseases and certainly a lot of parasites for humans and other animals. See how active he is? He's another super active snake. I think they're looking at each other. I'm definitely not going to let them hang out because Jareth is a snake-eating snake for sure. I don't believe that the Chinese beauty snake is a snake-eating snake. I could be wrong. Maybe when times are tough, they might consider that. But as far as I know, he doesn't eat other snakes. So, but I don't want to put him in danger for sure because I love him too much. But don't worry, he's secure over there in that enclosure. So anyway, these guys do us a lot of good if you leave them alone, even if it is a quote-unquote dangerous snake. So no snake, in my opinion, is dangerous if you leave it alone, right? If you just back away and leave it alone, he'll leave you alone. Now, I do understand in an emergency situation, it might be hectic, it might be scary. So, but we always recommend that you guys leave them alone. And if you have to handle the situation, that you let professionals handle the situation for you. Because putting yourself in danger to exterminate the snake yourself is really counterintuitive, isn't it? So if you try to do away with the snake, you're putting yourself right in close proximity, and you're doing exactly what would make a snake actually harm you, which is defending itself from you, right? And they're way more scared of you than you are of them. I promise you that. These guys think that humans are going to eat them. They think that humans are scary out there in nature. If they see a human out there in the wild and they don't know what you are, or maybe they do know what you are, a lot of humans do hurt snakes. So they're pretty scary to snakes. So that's a very frightful situation for everybody involved, I guess, but especially for that animal. And they're just animals that want to live their life too, and they were there first anyway. So it's really, to me, it's very important to leave them alone because they do us a lot of good. Number one, it's going to be eating a lot of rodents and a lot of cockroaches, apparently, when it comes to being like a garter snake and some other snakes. And without that kind of predator in the ecosystem, we would have way too many rodents and way too many roaches and things like that, and they would overpower us and actually make us sick. Oh, here's a good question from Nikki. Hi, Nikki. I've seen some snakes dance to flute music. Why do they do that? Well, funny thing is that snakes have no ears and they really can't hear, but snakes can feel vibrations. Like if the snake were in a tree or on the ground, he could feel vibrations if they were something very, very loud, or somebody stomping and walking by, a bigger animal, which most animals are bigger than this animal, right? So he could definitely feel that through vibrations, through just feeling, but they can't hear. So the flute, when it comes to like snake charming, like with cobras and things like that in other countries, those snakes are actually following the movement of the flute. So you'll notice in snake charming videos and footage, they will kind of be moving like this, right? And the cobra will usually, where's my hand at? Let's switch around. So they'll usually be kind of hooded up like this, right? So cobra can kind of sit up like this. It's kind of a unique ability that that snake has to sit up very, very easily, and they hood up to threaten their enemies. They're trying to look big and tough and not edible to that human staring at them. They're going to hood up and kind of focus on that movement, and the person is actually moving back and forth, and that's what they're focused on. They don't have the greatest vision ever, but they still do have vision, and they can see that movement, and they're very movement based and shadow based and things like that, and light based. Snakes do not see color, but they see well enough to be able to follow movement based on movement, light, shadows, things like that. Their best sense by far is going to be their sense of smell. So they're probably also smelling that person rocking back and forth and playing the flute, but they certainly cannot hear it. We don't believe that they can, since they have no ears and really no hearing ability that we know of. And they don't really respond to noises. They might respond to vibrations, just like a deaf person would respond to low bass or someone walking or music and things like that. You know, they can hear vibrations if it's low enough, but someone playing a flute like that is probably not going to be loud enough for them to hear. Abigail says, hello, I find garter snakes in my yard a lot. That might be Keenan talking as well. So either one of you. Yeah, garter snakes are really common, especially when it's warmer out. They're going to come out and they're going to help you guys with all your bugs. And they also eat some lizards and things like that, but certainly harmless to humans. Snakes are really only harmful, number one, if messed with, and also to their prey. So they definitely have prey. They are predators. Where am I going? Haha, there we go. He's so pretty. I love how his pattern kind of changes from his neck. He's got a solid neck, like kind of goldish, greenish yellow. And then his back dorsal area is going to have that amazing pattern. And then all of a sudden it kind of turns solid and then stripe it on his tail. Just kind of a straight stripe. Isn't that cool? These guys have a very varied pattern. He's going to leave us, I think, if I let him. They're a very active snake as well, much more active than even the king snake. These guys are really busy animals. They do require a moderately sized enclosure if you do want to have one at home. These guys are pretty easy to care for, and they're not aggressive. They're just wiggly. And they are an amazing display animal too, because they tend to sit on a perch and kind of sit there on a branch or a tree, and they move around quite a bit. So you can see them being really active as long as they're wanting to. They do sleep too every now and then. I did cover this a little bit ago, so you may have missed it, Nikki, but it's a good question anyway. What happens to all the hair and the bones of the food snakes eat? So they don't spit it up like an owl pellet that birds of prey do, which is also called a cast, by the way, because owls aren't the only birds that actually spit up a pellet. We call that a cast in the zoo world. And cast, just like a cast on your arm or leg, right? It's the same word, but it's a different thing. But a cast is going to be the hair, bones, fur, feathers, whatever the animal may be, etc., that's non-digestible. But a snake will actually digest all of those things and just have to use the restroom afterwards. So they're going to pretty much fully digest. And then whatever remains, just like most animals, they're going to defecate. And that's what comes out the other end, of course. Y'all knew that. But I did cover that earlier as well. Well, I think this guy's getting pretty wiggly, and I do want to hold a little bit more of a still animal so I can show you guys some of their facial features and things like that. But I think Long is a beautiful snake. I hope you agree. He is just a gorgeous snake. And you can see he's very, very sweet. He just wants to move around and be busy. Oh, this is a good question. Reginald's asking off topic, but how is this captioning or capturing? Are you watching with captions on? If you are, fantastic. Captions work on YouTube and Facebook, but capturing my voice, I'm basically using my audio on my laptop. And we use a program called StreamYard to actually stream our live streams, stream the live stream over on YouTube and Facebook. So if that helps to answer your question. But the captions, if you are asking about captioning, which is great for hard of hearing and deaf and whatnot, and even myself, I'm actually pretty hard of hearing myself, unfortunately. So I watch a lot of things with closed captioning. But that is actually provided by Facebook and by YouTube. It's an automatic thing, which is pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to let him rest beside me over here. I just want to give you guys another look at him really fast because I think he's just gorgeous. This is a pretty unique type of snake and not very often seen in the pet trade or in animal programs. But I don't know why, because they're fantastic. I think they're not very common yet in the care of humans, but I love them. I think they are fantastic. So the captioning, yes. So the captioning is going to be provided by Facebook and by YouTube automatically. Isn't that cool? So I'm glad that that's working for you if that's something that you need. We actually didn't know that when we first started doing our live stream. We're pretty new to doing the live streams and the virtual programs because we had to adapt to the times at hand, right? But we were so happy to hear that the captioning does work for that. So we were very, very excited. So that is all automated. Pretty neat. So I hope that answers your question, and I hope everything's coming in clearly for you. So let's meet another snake, because remember, we're only meeting snakes today. This, oh my goodness, you probably know this guy. He's a frequent flyer on our program. This is Prince the Python. Prince is a ball python, and his coloration is called a pastave. Pastave is a special coloration which is only found in the care of humans. So both Jareth, right here next to me, Jareth in the enclosure there, Jareth and Long, the Chinese beauty snake, both of those animals look exactly how they would look out in nature. But this is not how a wild ball python looks. A wild ball python would be a much darker animal with black and brown and some white as well. But they're much more camouflage, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you're a wild animal, you probably want to blend into things. Some animals stand out for different reasons, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit with our next two animals after Prince is done. But Prince is a ball python bred in the care of humans, and his special coloration is called pastave, which is a mix between a pastel, which is another coloration of them, and a mojave. So pastave is a kind of a combination word that they have come up with. Whoever the breeder was that actually came up with this coloration for the first time, he got to name it, he or she. And that's what we get. So very, very beautiful. He's one of my favorites to actually bring on to the program because his coloration looks really cool on a live stream, I think. Now, a lot of people ask me if he's albino. He's not. So albino would actually have red eyes. I'm going to see if I can focus this on him a little better. And at the same time, I'm going to check my camera's timer while I'm bending up here to change the focus on my camera. How about that? We'll multitask. Let's see. That's a little better. So you can actually see his eyes are not red. If he were albino, he'd have red eyes with no pigment. That's a feature of all albino animals, is red eyes. They can be dark red or light red, but his eyes are kind of golden with a beautiful slitted pupil. A lot of people tell me that animals, or snakes rather, with slitted pupils are venomous, but that is not true. So many snakes with slitted pupils actually are non-venomous, like pythons and boa constrictors, for example, and there are other ones as well. You'll notice that he has these little freckle-like things on his lips. Oh, keeps going in and out of focus. Come on, camera. He's so cute. You guys, my animals are so cute. I get so distracted. We're gonna do it, I promise. Maybe not. That's okay. He's got these little, they kind of look like freckles on his lips there. So that is a feature of pythons and some other venomous snakes like pit vipers. They actually have heat-sensing pits on their lips. Pythons have several of them on their lips. You can see those little holes. Those are little heat-sensing pits that help him to basically sense the heat of his animal that he's eating, his prey. So that's gonna tell you what kind of animals he usually would eat. So these guys are an African species, ball pythons are, and they're a fairly, well, docile, but they're also very inactive in general. They usually kind of just hide underneath things. They can do a little bit of climbing here and there, right, Tanja? Tanja knows ball pythons very well. They can do a little bit of climbing here and there, but as a general rule, because they're wild and they're hiding from their predators and they're hiding from their prey, they're usually going to be hiding underneath something. That's just the way they live, typically. So they're going to be hiding most of the time, I would say 80% of the time, and now and then they might peep out to find a drink of water or something, and maybe play around, slither around on something. But these guys are going to be ambush predators. So both Jareth and the last snake that we saw, Long, those guys are more active hunters where they're going to seek out their prey like actively. They're going to venture out and actually look for prey, maybe birds in a tree, or they're going to look for lizards and snakes to eat, right, when it comes to the king snake, or they're going to seek out rodents or whatever it may be. Not super picky for either one of those snakes, to be honest with you. These guys are pretty picky eaters, because they're rodent specialists. They oftentimes will eat rodents. And what they do is they can go a long time without eating because they're so heavy-bodied. They're constrictors, so they have heavy bodies and strong muscles to be able to squeeze their prey. But they can wait for a long time in between meals. In fact, these guys can wait a year without eating with very little issues. It's not ideal for them. They're going to lose some weight, and they're probably going to be very hungry at that point. But these guys typically eat maybe once a month, maybe every other month in the wild. Now here at Once in a Wild, we don't feed them once a month. We offer food about once a week. So every 7 to 10 days is typical for how often we offer food to our ball pythons and other snakes and things. Some snakes actually eat more often than that, but for a ball python, every 7 to 10 days is perfectly fine. That's very normal. So once a week is even fine as well. So every 7 days. Now, if you offer and they don't eat it, that's pretty common for a ball python. Yes, indeed. So these guys don't usually actively hunt, but like I said, they're going to ambush their prey. They're going to hang out maybe below a log or in a cave or under a termite mound in Africa, and their food comes to them up in that hole where they live or wherever underneath that log, and that's when they're going to strike. And they can sense their prey with those heat pits. They can also use their sense of smell. Remember, they can't hear very well, right? They might feel vibrations. That might be another sense that they can use, and they can see a little bit. But their main sense is going to be their sense of smell. So how does a snake smell? Well, you might be like, well, duh, he uses his nose. They don't. They don't use their nose to smell. They use their nostrils to breathe, like we do, right? But they smell with their tongue instead. Where are you going, Prince? They have a forked tongue, as all snakes do, right? I'm speaking for all of them. All snakes have a very slender forked tongue, which is not really for tasting or licking up anything. In fact, when these guys want to drink water, they just slurp up the water with their lips, which is really adorable, honestly, when they want to go get a drink. But these guys have a forked tongue that sticks in and out of their mouth quite a bit. Like that. Is that a good snake impression? Cute. Snakes don't blink either, so maybe I shouldn't blink. I look like a crazy person. Oh, have to blink every now and then because these lights are so bright. But these guys can't blink. Did you know that? That's another side fact. I'm all over the place today. But that forked tongue is going to come out and in very rapidly all the time, as long as they're awake and figuring out the world around them. That's going to be their main sense. And their brain is actually going to receive information from the tongue via a special organ called a Jacobson's organ, which is on the roof of their mouth. And that actually tells their brain directly what is going on and what's happening, and if there's prey or predators or just nothing around them that is concerning. It's just how they sense the world around them. A lot of people ask me why snakes stick their tongues out so much. Well, that's why. They're trying to figure out what's going on. It's kind of like you looking around. That's their main sense. So they have sight too, but their sense of smell is their main sense that they figure out the world around them with. So that tongue is going to come into their mouth and touch the roof of their mouth, and that is going to tell the snake information directly. And that is how they're going to sense prey or just sense the world around them in general, like I said. So a mouse comes on into the cave where they live, they're probably going to get eaten by the ball python if they're hungry. They're not hungry, they'll leave them alone. These guys don't eat every time, but in the wild, I'm sure that opportunity will strike and they will strike back and try to eat when the opportunity is there, right? Because they don't know when they're going to get their next opportunity to eat a mouse or a rat that wanders in, or another type of rodent. There's many different species of rodents out there, small rodents that they can eat. These guys can consume an animal about 4 times the size of their head. If you take a look at a snake's body, that's also going to tell you how big of a food item they can eat. So since he's a pretty heavy-bodied snake, he can eat a fairly large rodent. Yeah, he's pretty thick when it comes to a snake. He is not the biggest ball python in the world. He's still growing. Friends is about 5 years old, maybe 4 years old, something like that. He's pretty young. I've had him for a few years now. He's about 4. And he's going to get bigger. Males don't get much bigger than 4, maybe 5 feet when they're all the way stretched out. He's about 3 feet now. But females can get up to 6 feet when stretched out. But this species of snake is rarely ever stretched out all the way. They're usually curled up in a ball, just like their name says, ball python. Ball pythons also use their heavy bodies, not just to swallow food, but also to protect their face. So sometimes what comes into their home may not be prey. It might be a predator instead. So their main defense is going to be hiding. So they're not a very aggressive species, which is why they make pretty decent pets when it comes to being a snake. They're very popular. I'm just trying to untwist them so you guys can see this. But basically, they're going to hide their little head underneath their fat body, sorry, their thick body, and they're going to hide under there almost like a tortoise with its shell. And that's hopefully going to protect their most essential asset, which is their face. So if their face gets destroyed, they're destroyed too. But if their body gets bitten, they can probably survive. So hopefully that will protect them. And they have all these beautiful scales to keep them hopefully safe, right? That is what a reptile's scales are for. All reptiles have scales. They do vary in smoothness and thickness and roughness and etc. Species to species, it's going to vary. But all snakes and other reptiles have scales to help protect them. The most extreme version is going to be a turtle or tortoise's shell, right? That's going to be a very thick scale indeed. So just to reiterate, these guys are an ambush predator. They're going to hide underneath something and where they live, usually inside of a cave, under a log or a termite mound, etc. And they're going to wait for their food to come by or come on into the cave. They're going to reach out and grab it very quickly by striking forward, reaching with their mouth. They do have teeth. Remember, they're non-venomous. They are constrictors. They don't have fangs, but they do have teeth. And their teeth are kind of like sticky Velcro. They are the sticky part of the Velcro, and the mouse or rodent is the soft part. So they stick together pretty well, right? And he's going to grab onto it and pull it into his body, and then he's going to wrap around it with kind of the first half of his body and squeeze until that animal is no longer living. And then they're going to consume it by using their specialized jaw. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, how can he eat a rodent so large? Well, he can eat something 4 times the size of his head because he has a very, very special jaw system that us humans just don't have. So humans, we chew our food like that, right? Well, maybe not like that. If you chew like that, you're very rude. Please don't chew like that. Just kidding. You can chew like however you want. These guys are going to chew, or sorry, these guys don't chew their food like humans because they have a very different jaw system. It's not designed for chewing. Their teeth are designed for grabbing, holding on, and then they just swallow their food whole. They don't chew up their food in pieces like we do. So how they're going to do that is they have a split down their jaw. If you touch your jaw, you do not have a split. It's a pretty hard jaw there, if I do say so myself. And it certainly doesn't split in two like a snake's jaw. So a snake has kind of a floating jaw system, and it's very slender in comparison. They have a nice long nose, snout, right? Rostral area. And it's going to be a nice slender snout with a floating jaw, and up and down on the top and especially the bottom has a huge gap right here. And that means that their jaw can actually split like this. Now, it doesn't open up their skin or anything like that, of course, but the skin is very stretchy. So that helps. And they're going to split like this on top and bottom. And then they're going to open up really super wide, nice and wide with these 2 sections here, which are very, very, very stretchy. Stretchy here, space here. They can make tons and tons and tons and tons of room to be able to consume that animal, typically head first. We're going to see that here in a little bit, I hope. I promise you, this guy almost never refuses a meal. I've never seen him do it, so hopefully so. But they do consume that meal typically head first. That way it's streamlined, but they can consume the meal backwards if they have to, or if they just don't care and they're in a hurry, I guess. Love it. I'm so glad you do. Hello, nice to see you. It's so good to see you on here. Fabulous impression. I don't remember which impression I was doing. Oh, the snake impression. You're welcome, and thank you. Ha 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 ha. Maybe that's what you were talking about, Maria. Sick. Yep. Yes, 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 ma'am. Yes, I love their directional scent and how they control which way they want to smell from. Yes, that is why a snake has a forked tongue. So back in the old days, forks didn't have 3 or 4 points on them. That's 4. That's 3. They used to have 2 points. So that's why they called it a forked tongue. That's what people used to eat with, was a fork with just 2 points. I don't know why we started adding more points. There's really no point to that. Did you see what I did there? That wasn't even on purpose. There's no point to that. However, that's what a snake's tongue has. 2 points. And that is how, 2 points for me. Woo! 2 points for Slytherin. So that's why they have the forked tongue, and why it's so slender is because it can basically kind of work like an antenna. So it comes out of their mouth like this, and they can smell directionally in 2 different directions. And especially when they're sticking their head all in different directions too, they can kind of get a feel for what's going on around them. Isn't that incredible? There's so many incredible things about snakes. Why don't people like them? I'm glad you guys like them. I think they're fantastic. And they're so quiet and nice and sweet. Aren't they? We love you. Don't you love him? But yeah, that's why they have the forked tongue, to be able to get a grasp. Just like we have 2 ears, right? We got 2 ears, so we can hopefully hear on both sides of our heads. I have terrible hearing in my left ear, so my sense of direction is terrible. So I get it. I get why they have 2. It helps them figure out directions. Since my ear don't work on this side, I can't really hear directions very well. If I did have good hearing on both sides of my head, I could probably hear directions better. But that makes sense why they're designed that way, right? Very, very true. Okay, Keenan is asking, is the jaw like a hinge? Kind of, sort of, but it's more like just super stretchy right here. It stretches like this. It's really, really fun to look up if you can look up a video of like their skeleton. I believe there's like an x-ray video. Maybe I'll show that sometime if I can get rights to it. There's like an x-ray video of how it actually works. It's super stretchy here, but here is just a space. It's a gap. So they can literally just split like this, and this just opens up, and there's a lot of stretchy skin in between. And man, it just opens up like a big flower mouth, essentially, and they can consume that food item. I hope that makes sense. But it's not exactly like an unhinge, but you can say unhinge. A lot of people do. It's not really incorrect. It's just, for me, it doesn't seem like an unhinging, but my brain just might be geared different than you guys. And that's okay. On point. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Here's a great question from Nikki. Can snakes hypnotize their prey like the snake in the Jungle Book? Like Ka? Trust in me. Trust in me. No, because of course I don't have magical abilities, although I think that they're magical and wonderful, and Ka is one of my favorites, even though I guess Ka is a villain. It's fine. Sir Hiss is also one of my favorites from Robin Hood. Anyway, those guys definitely can't hypnotize. So they're going to basically just strike at the opportunity. They're not going to wait very long to, like their feeding response is going to basically, like, if they're hungry, they're going to strike. And they're not going to waste a whole lot of time to do that. So it's not like luring the prey in. You know, if the prey gets away, they get away. But they rush forward and grab the prey before it gets away. Predator. Yeah, kind of like a predator mouth. Yes, ma'am. That is very similar, although that's, different. You can kind of see it better on the predator, but it's kind of like that on the inside. I don't know if Keenan is old enough to watch Predator. I hope not. I hope I'm not offending anyone. I don't know how old Keenan is, but yes, if you are familiar with the movie Predator, it's kind of like that. Okay, Prince, you are a wonderful animal ambassador, if I do say so myself. He's one of my favorites to bring on the program. But let's meet some more colubrids, shall we? Colubrids are my favorite, and that's what I brought mostly today, But Prince is fabulous. Thanks, Prince. Thanks for being a great animal ambassador today. I'm going to let you rest. I think you earned a nice little rest, which is what ball pythons are best at doing, is just resting and hanging out. But let's meet another snake, shall we? I'm actually going to check my camera once again before we have that happen again. Ha! You guys are so wonderful and patient. And I love each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us today. So this here is one of my personal favorite animals. But I do love all my snakes, of course. Look at this beautiful thing. This is Harlequin. Harlequin is a corn snake. This is the snake that you would find looking just like this in the eastern United States. They're usually in the southeastern United States, places like Florida and Georgia and some other states as well. You also might see some of her close cousins right here in Texas, like the Texas rat snake. These guys are really, really similar, but corn snakes have this beautiful red coloration and orange with kind of black little outlines to her pattern there. They're absolutely gorgeous. And you guys know why they call the corn snake the corn snake? Well, it's not because of this color. It's because of this color on her belly. Can you see? I'm gonna make sure you guys can see her. See that beautiful pattern on her ventral scales. So her dorsal is red and orange and black, but her ventral or her belly scales are black and white with a checkered pattern. And you can probably tell why I call her. I'm going the wrong way. You can probably tell why I call her Harlequin because of the coloration. If you're a fan of Harlequin, very cool. Yeah, or just the Harlequin story, or legend coloration, all that other things. Even if you know what Harlequin means and you don't know who Harlequin is, anyway, she's named after that. But anyway, these guys are beautiful snakes. That startled me. I think something shifted. Oh, I see what's happening. So I do have a weight on top of this enclosure, but our snake down here is very stubborn. I think he wants out. So So we'll feed him here in a little bit. Don't you worry. But that did startle me. You saw that live on the live stream. Animals do things. Stay in there, Jareth. I need you to stay put. I'm watching him, though, on screen here. So Harley Quinn, goodness gracious, bloopers, blooper reel, blooper reel. So these guys are beautiful snakes naturally in the wild looking like this. Isn't that gorgeous? Now, believe it or not, this is a pretty good camouflage pattern for like in leaf litter or on the ground. But they do have this beautiful checkerboard belly. And that is to actually spook their enemies. So in nature, if you see the snake slithering by and you're a predator of the snake, which believe it or not, there are several predators of snakes like birds and bigger mammals and all kinds of things. Other snakes are also predators for snakes. We're not going to let that happen today. But if you are slithering along, being a beautiful corn snake, and a predator approaches, say it's a fox approaches and looks at you and says, I want to eat some snake today. And all of a sudden the snake sees a fox and goes, oh my gosh, I better change colors. So what she'll do is actually show her belly off like this. So they kind of stand up, not quite like a cobra does, but kind of more like in an S pattern, and they'll show their belly. I wish she would do it for you, but I don't want to scare her. But it's kind of like this. And that is going to be kind of a strange appearance to other animals. So that's going to at least make them stop and look and think about what's going on. That's going to hopefully give her enough time to slither away and get away from the predator, right? So that's going to spook the animal away. Hopefully, that's the idea of that anyway. That's going to be the reason that they have that varying pattern. But that's my favorite thing about the corn snake, other than the fact that they're so docile and sweet and wonderful snakes to hold and be around. These guys do have that varied pattern just naturally. Isn't that amazing? That's just how they're designed. Pretty awesome. What questions do you guys have about our snakes so far? I think you guys are being so polite and wonderful. That is a great idea, and that is a great guess. I've already given it away. Reginald says, because they were mostly found in cornfields hunting in the rat-infested field. They certainly can. So another name for this species is actually the red rat snake, which, you know, they are in the rat snake family, but they really should be called the rodent snake, not the rat snake. The term rat snake is kind of deceiving because most of them are not large enough to eat rats, although some of them are once they reach an adult size. But this type of snake is more commonly going to eat mice. So they eat a lot of mice. But rodent snakes nonetheless. But they are in the rat snake family, so that's not a bad guess. And they certainly can go into cornfields and eat rodents. But it is because of their belly. That is why they have this beautiful corn-like pattern of some of your wild, or not wild corns, but some of your various corn types are going to have kind of a similar looking pattern, right? Some corn is like multicolored like this. Pretty amazing. Looks just like corn. So that's why somebody bought that. But the other name is gonna be the red rat snake. Yeah, it was a nice thought. I agree. I'm glad you knew that, though. Not many people do. You guys are actually a pretty well-informed audience today. But let me know if you have any questions. And let me know, again, what your thoughts are on, like, why maybe other people are afraid of snakes. So we need to make sure and teach people about them, right? That's really important. That's one of my biggest passions in my life, is actually advocating for misunderstood animals that are very important to the natural environment, because there's no reason to harm them. There really isn't. If we leave the snake alone, no matter what the species, non-venomous or venomous, you're going to get left alone too. So really, you reap what you sow when that comes to karma, right? If you're not attacking and going after animals for no reason, they're not going to come after you either. A lot of times people end up tangling up with wildlife, but that's not the wildlife's fault, and they shouldn't suffer because of that. That is my passion. So I want to make sure and advocate for snakes. Many thousands of snakes in the United States and all over the world are actually harmed because they are misidentified, which is really sad. So most people, well, not most people, I don't want to speak for everybody. I want to say a lot of people do not know how to identify snakes properly. The best thing to do if you find a snake, or if your relative or family member, or that's the same thing, your relative or friend finds a snake and they're scared of snakes, the best thing you can do, if you're not cornered by it and you're okay, is to take a little snapshot of it and send it to a snake expert like myself. And we can let you know what kind of species it is. And we recommend leaving it alone if you can, right? You should leave it alone, or if it's in your home, call a professional. And usually you can just leave it alone and it'll leave. There's many, many methods as well to encourage snakes to actually leave. One really tried and true method in your backyard is to get a water hose. So snakes don't hear anything, like I said. So if they're out there in the yard, just kind of like, hey, I'm in a backyard. This is kind of comfortable. I'm nice and safe. This is a great situation for me. First of all, they're not going to be there unless there's good resources, or they're just passing through. Maybe they're just minding their own business. No reason to harm them. Snakes do us a lot of good compared to how much bad they do, so it's really good to leave them alone. But anyway, if they're just passing through, or if they're there because of resources, by resources I mean water, shelter, or maybe you have rodents. Maybe the snake is there because you need to clean up, frankly. Maybe you have an unkept yard, which has a lot of coverage to hide in, etc. Maybe you have a pet bird outside and the pet bird has spilled a bunch of bird food, and then you have rodents, and then you have the predators of rodents that come by, and they're innocent in the situation. They're just following the food chain. It's just nature. So anyway, so that's the only reason you're going to have them there in the first place, unless they're just passing through. But we do encourage you guys to leave them alone. And the best thing to tell all your family and friends is to do the same thing. If you see a snake and you're unsure what to do, take a picture of it if you can and send it to somebody that knows, that knows how to identify them, and they can tell you everything's fine. It's usually going to be a harmless snake, almost always. And many, many snakes are mistaken for something dangerous, and then unfortunately their life is lost. And in my opinion, you should leave all snakes alone to live another day. Ha ha ha. Let's see. Yes, unfortunately, media and entertainment play a big role in their image. Yes, similarly to a wonderful movie called Jaws, right, with sharks. Love that movie. I think it's a fantastic movie. And I don't believe Steven Spielberg intended for sharks to be hated and feared as much as they were, because he's a great person and he likes animals. And I think he has pretty good common sense. He knows that sharks are not man-eaters. But similarly to that, a lot of people began persecuting sharks because of that image. Now, I'm not against movies like that. I think it's fine as long as people use their common sense. But it is important to counteract that with the truth, right? And we need to be spreading truth about everything, especially nowadays, because there's so many misinformation on the internet and via word of mouth and the telephone game. People think they know everything and they're going to tell you. And it's really important to talk to somebody with experience and expertise. And that way right? And take it for what it is. Take everything with a grain of salt. But if you ask the experts, they're probably going to tell you expert advice. That is my expert advice. So that's what I would tell all your people that don't necessarily like snakes is to leave it to the professionals in every way, shape, and form. I don't recommend going and picking up snakes. If you have children, teach your snakes to leave wildlife alone. That is the best way that I can put that without being too ugly about it. We definitely want to make sure that they're left alone to do their job. And what's their job? Their job is to be in the food chain and eating lots of rodents for us, usually, or roaches. Pretty amazing. Let me know what some other ideas you guys have about why snakes are so persecuted versus other animals. I think it's because they're pretty common. Snakes are pretty common throughout the world. Obviously, they're on every continent except for one, which is Antarctica. So they're almost everywhere. They're on land, versus like in the water with sharks. So we come across them a lot more than sharks. And but by far, snakes are the most persecuted animal on the face of the planet. So we want to counteract that by teaching you guys about them and showing you that they're not scary. They're actually some of the nicest animals you can know, and very pleasant to be around and very smooth and soft. They're not slimy or gross. These guys are some of the cleanest animals in the animal kingdom, and I love them. Harley is fantastic. So Harlequin has a beautiful orange eyes, which is their natural eye color, kind of blends into the rest of their body. Remember, snakes don't have eyelids. They actually have a scale over their eye, which is clear. They can see straight through it. They can never blink. So when they rest or sleep, they kind of just zone out. That's what they're used to. Pretty cool. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let Harley rest. And we have one more snake to meet really fast before we feed this guy. I'm not going to be holding a snake while I feed because all the snakes eat rodents and I'm going to be feeding a rodent. So I don't want to smell like prey and then them accidentally mistake me for a prey. That would not be a fun live stream for me. It might get a lot of views and clicks, but I'm not going to be that kind of show today. So we're going to make sure and show you one more snake other than Jareth. And then we'll feed Jareth. How about that? And then we'll close. I think she is just gorgeous. And I appreciate you guys watching today. And if you are able to share the video afterwards, that helps us out quite a bit. And if you're able to subscribe to our YouTube channel after this, that helps us out very, very much. And tell all your friends and family about Once in a Wild and what we do. So we do broadcast these live streams, and we also offer Zoom Room Animal Encounters, which are personal and private and customizable Zooms with animals, so you can pick the animals. We don't just have snakes here at Once in a Wild. We've got reptiles, amphibians, creepy crawlies, mammals, and birds. So all kinds of animals and something for everybody. Pretty awesome. But we hope that you guys love snakes just as much as us. Okay, Harley, you are beautiful and fantastic as always. Let me get her situated really fast. I do want to show you guys something before I forget. I brought you guys some snake sheds. So this is actually what a snake has to do as they grow. So like all reptiles, they do have to shed their top layer of epidermis, or their skin, as they grow. About once a month is how often a healthy snake will shed in adulthood. Typically as a baby, they're going to maybe shed a little bit more often, maybe every 20, 25 days, but it's usually around a month, once a month. And they'll shed. And this is actually Long's shed, that Chinese beauty snake that we met. Look how beautiful and perfect his shed is. I could just use it for a streamer. It's so perfect. So it kind of turns into this dry shed afterwards once it dries out. When it comes off of them, it's going to be a lot softer and kind of a little bit moist. And it's going to come right off of them, kind of like turning a sock inside out, or a pantyhose inside out from your leg. If you ever worn pantyhose, it's very similar to that. So they start to become cloudy or blue, as we put it. I'll show you another shed that's a little bigger. This is actually our next snake's shed. Here it is. It's a bigger snake, so you're going to get to see it's another king snake, just like this one, different species. Pretty cool. That's a good shed too. Very nice. So they're going to become cloudy, and then about a week later, they start to become clear again, and it starts to split like this on their skin. It just comes off. And they're going to slither right out of it with the assistance of maybe like a log nearby or something in their enclosure. They kind of rub up against it because they don't have any hands to be able to pull it off, right? They can't take off their shirt like we can. They can't do that with their non-hands. So they use the side of something or something like that. As long as they're nice and healthy, it comes right off. Some snakes have shedding issues. Some ball pythons have shedding issues. They're one of the biggest snakes that have shedding issues sometimes. It's important to keep them misted and the proper moisture, the proper temperature, all the healthy things. And this is actually Prince's shed. Right here, this is the best shed he's ever given me. He used to have shedding issues, but he's doing a lot better. But again, ball pythons do have that issue pretty commonly. It's not uncommon. You just have to make sure all the shed comes off, even if it is in pieces. Sometimes it happens. So a good thing to do as well for your snakes at home, if you have snakes, is to soak them in some nice room temperature water. You don't want it to be too warm, but you don't want it to be too cold either. So usually room temperature is fine. You don't want to shock them or anything. But if they are soaked during a shed, maybe one or two times, that's usually going to help a lot. And you want to keep them on proper substrate. This is typically good for most snake species. Not every single snake species, but most snake species live very well on the cypress blend mulch. Very inexpensive as well. You can get it at your local Home Depot or Lowe's, very easy, or whatever garden store you have, right? But this is Prince's shed as well. Like I said, you can tell how thick it is, just like him. Thick, right, Tanja? So the snake is actually going to show their pattern on the shed because it's part of their epidermal layer, that skin layer, right? You're going to shed that right off. You see the bands? The stripes? Cool, huh? So that is our next snake. Let's go ahead and meet him. I'm going to wash my hands really fast with our hand sanitizer. Just real quick. You guys are fantastic. Which questions and comments do you have? Oh, Nikki has one. I already know this, but she has a pet snake. He's a ball python. That's Patches. I noticed that he pokes his head out of his cave hide, just standing still, and he also watches TV. Is that normal? Is he just crazy? He's a little crazy. I don't know if that's normal, but it's not abnormal either. He might be curious about the movement on the TV. Can't hear the TV, but maybe he's just curious about what he's looking at and smelling at that moment in time. Patches is a pretty curious ball python. Reginald says, it sucks that people tie their hate for snakes into religion and their parents and grandparents fear them and the cycle continues. I agree with you. Now, even though you may have whatever religion you have, and that's perfectly fine. We're not gonna talk about that. Even though there's things like that in religious text, that doesn't mean that it's right, to persecute the actual animal in real life. It's a story. So we don't want to think that just because the snake in the Garden of Eden was Satan, right? That doesn't mean that all snakes are Satan. That's just ridiculous. That's not what that means at all. There's many interpretations of that, but it's honestly an illustration for other things, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's kind of interesting to think about. You guys want to get deep with me? Think about this. So if Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, right? And all of a sudden a snake is talking to them, and Eve actually trusted the snake. What does that tell you? Eve trusted the snake, which was apparently the devil, right? In disguise, though. It wasn't the actual devil. He was in disguise, right? So, but she trusted the snake to be able to hear him out about the forbidden fruit. So that makes me think, maybe snakes were actually a trusted individual in the story, right? So think about that. Feast on it. Let it, cycle through your brain. I think she trusted the snake for a reason in the story, right? Because she already liked snakes. I don't know. Think about it. That's just my interpretation. But it is very, very silly that we associate that as something that we should just be afraid of. Obviously, there are animals that we should respect. There's nothing wrong with respecting an animal. What does it mean to respect something? That means you certainly don't kill them. That's not respectful, right? Certainly not. You don't harm them. That's not respectful. Fearing them is okay in some instances, but it's really not a great mind frame, right? Not making any sense. I'm very passionate about this. Ooh, Tanja, the fear is even worse in the Black community. Reginald, Just Cool and Scott and I make sure we are out there in the community teaching the correct info about reptiles. You are a treasure and we love you. And that is very, 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 very important because some communities may not have the opportunities that other communities have, right? Just the way it is, unfortunately. And it's very sad. And yes, it is very important to outreach to everybody. We try to outreach to the entire world. I've got friends all over the place that I talk to about snakes. And every time they have a question, I try to educate them. That is the best way that we can change the world. That's part of what we do here at Once in a While is we want to inspire change that's positive through what we do. We want to inspire you guys to change the world because of how we're educating you, right? Love you, Tandra. Okay. Okay. I am just looking through your comments. Here's a good question from Samantha. So they eat the same amount when they shed. During a shed cycle, some snakes don't want to eat at all. And again, snakes don't have to eat that often, right? Because they're ectothermic and cold-blooded and they don't have their own body temperature and they don't process food as quickly as we do. They're going to eat about once a week, maybe every other week. During a shed cycle, depending on how do I explain this without showing you? Depending on how opaque they are, how cloudy their eyes are, we can still offer food safely. They may be uncomfortable if their eyes are cloudy because their eye is a scale too, right? So if their whole body is clouded, that's going to give them a hard time seeing. It's going to make it hard for them to see. So they may not be comfortable, but some snakes eat just fine during a shed cycle. You don't necessarily want to offer food when they're deep into shed. And I know it's kind of complicated if you're not a snake keeper. Most snake keepers know not to feed their snakes when they're in deep shed. But if they're coming out of that cloudiness and they're about to shed, perfectly fine to feed them. So it just kind of depends. But most snakes in the wild, they're going to take a break from eating while they're in shed. That is typical. So that is probably the shortest answer I could have given you is in the wild, they're going to rest and take a break from eating that week, most likely. But a shed cycle is usually anywhere from 5 to 10 days, depending on the snake. So it's around there. So a week to 10 days. So if I'm not mistaken, please don't quote me. It's live. We're on live program. So look it up on Google. No, just kidding. I'll look it up for you. Tanja. Love you too. Okay, let's meet one more snake before we feed this very, very active and strong snake over here. Oh my goodness, you guys. Don't worry, it's all going to be worth it. And then we're almost done. And I appreciate everybody sticking around for the program. This is my absolute favorite reptile I have, Mr. Slytherin. This is Slytherin. Slytherin is also a king snake, but he is a California king snake. I love him so very much. He is a very, very, very special and calm, wonderful, wonderful animal ambassador. Slytherin, if you can believe it, was a hand-me-down snake. That means somebody gave him to me because they didn't want him anymore. Now, I don't blame people for doing that. Sometimes you just can't keep your animals anymore and you have to rehome them. Circumstances happen. I'm never going to judge somebody for doing the right thing in that circumstance because sometimes life happens. Like I said, it's certainly not okay to just re-release your animals that you have. That is not okay. So I'm certainly glad that they did the right thing in finding a good home for him. They were very happy that he was going to an education group because they knew how special he was. Sometimes king snakes can be a little cantankerous. Like this guy over here, he's just not a good handling snake. He wants to eat everything in sight, including my fingers sometimes. So, but this guy, not so much. He's a great snake. He's wonderful, very calm, very sweet. We don't know his age because he was given to us, but we imagine he's at least 12 to 14 years old. So, like I said, they could live into their 20s. So I certainly hope that he lives to be 30 because he's amazing and wonderful. He's a great animal ambassador, helping a lot of people get over their fear of snakes. He's done that a lot for people, so he's quite special. His name is Slytherin, after my favorite Harry Potter house, but he actually came with that name. What a great name. This is how a California king snake looks in the wild. They have this beautiful banded pattern in the wild, and he's actually kind of brown as an individual, but some of them are stark black, almost like his black coloration here, but with the white too. And I was told that actually it depends on what location in California. They vary from kind of brownish to all the way black. So it just depends. I heard that further towards the coastline near the water, they're going to be more brown than not. So he'd be like kind of a coastal version. But I believe Slytherin was bred in the care of humans. So he's never been out there in California as far as I know. He came in from Texas, as far as I know. But again, we don't know a ton of history on him other than he was very, very loved by a family before us. And they decided they just couldn't have him anymore for whatever reason. So here he is. He's just gorgeous. So this banded pattern is going to be basically a mimic. He's going to mimic that another snake, like a coral snake or maybe a sea crate or a sea snake, to tell animals that this is a dangerous snake. Now, who he's telling that to is his predators, things like bigger animals that might want to eat him. A lot of animals eat snakes, like we said before. So having the banded pattern is usually a warning, just like Harley Quinn's belly being that checker pattern with the black and white and looking very different than her dorsal. He's got that all over his body. So he's like a walking stop sign for animals to take a second thought at eating him because he might be dangerous. At the very least, they're going to take a look and say, hey, this isn't a natural pattern found in nature, right? So they're going to be like, what does that mean? I don't understand what I'm looking at. So that's going to help him to get away. That's what the purpose of this pattern is. It's similar to some other animals like lionfish in the ocean, right? So lionfish have a banded pattern on their beautiful fins that they have. The fins of a lionfish stick out like a lion's mane, right? They kind of look like these big flowers in the water. And each individual fin is going to have like a banded pattern. A sea snake also has a banded pattern because they are very, very venomous and they help to tell the other animals they're dangerous. So it's kind of like a universal sign or symbol for warning, warning, stop and look at me, I'm dangerous. So this type of pattern wouldn't really blend in with anything, right? Not much, other than if he was hanging out on top of a zebra or something like that. That would be kind of silly. He also doesn't live in Africa where zebras are. These guys are from California and only California. He's trying to leave us too. Goodness, our snakes are really active. It is later right now. It's almost 8 o'clock, you guys. You guys have any other questions about any of our animals? Oh, Slytherin is the best, isn't he? He is amazing. He's so beautiful and such a gentleman, unlike somebody I know. That's okay. We love Jareth anyway, even though he's kind of a jerk to humans, but he always eats. Okay. Well, I hate to do this, but I think I'm going to go ahead and put Slytherin away because it's time to feed our snake, and that might take some time. So I don't want to be going on too late. We've been talking about snakes forever. And if you guys love snakes as much as we do, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you'll see more snakes on our presentations. We have many, many snakes and we have many animals to meet. Go back and watch all of our live stream playlist on YouTube. That helps us out a lot. Like the videos, comment on the videos on YouTube as well as Facebook. Not just Facebook, but YouTube. That helps us so much. And share them with all your animal loving friends. And let all the teachers you guys know know about us because we do educational programs, and let all the moms and dads know that we do programs for kids. And we also do programs for adults too. We're for every age. Anybody that loves animals, we would love to jump into your house virtually or to your office, and maybe even in person soon too, because we also do offer in-person animal encounters as well in the San Antonio area, as long as things are safe and sound again, and we can do that, right? Let everybody know about us. So we're going to go ahead and let Slytherin rest, even though he just came out. Oh, Slytherin, you're the best. But I promise you he'll be on another program soon. He is one of my frequent snakes to be on the show. Okay, let Slytherin rest. So I know you guys want to see the snake eat. That is the main premise of today's show, right? Pretty awesome. Okay. All right. Let's put that warning back up again really fast. Live snake feeding on the show today. Are you excited? Who's excited for the snake feeding? I'm excited. You know, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I've fed a lot of snakes, hundreds of thousands of them, I think. And I'm not even kidding, because I used to work for a company that had so many snakes and so many reptiles, and it never really gets old. It's actually really fun. It can be a chore when I'm trying to do other things and I need to, you know, go feed animals. That's definitely work. I'm not going to say it's not work, because this is my job, but it is really fun for me to do that. That being said, I don't enjoy feeding rodents to other animals. I like rodents too, but they're part of the food chain, aren't they? And snakes have to eat something, and we got to feed our snakes. So snake feeding is about to happen. We aren't going to have a live rodent. We're going to have a frozen thawed rodent. You guys excited? I don't know why you're laughing at me, but you're welcome. Okay, guys, let me grab what I need from the floor. Oh my goodness, I'm so silly. I'm going to show you guys the rat. This is a very small rat. I got my feeding tongs here so I don't get bitten. Here is our rat. It is no longer with us, so don't worry. It's not going to suffer. None of that. It's a pretty small rat. I know it looks huge on camera, but it's about this big. And Jareth can certainly eat this rat, no problem. You guys ready for the feeding? I'll lower it down a little bit. I'm going to see if he will come back over here first, because I know you guys want to see kind of closer. But he's been slithering around all over the place. Slithering around all over the place. Slytherin. That's Slytherin. This is Jareth, named after the Goblin King from Labyrinth, after David Bowie, who, R.I.P., we love David Bowie. Are you going to come back over here? What do you think? Would you like to? If I open that, will you come back over? The people are ready to see you consume the food. So a snake, remember, this is a colubrid, but he will constrict the food a little bit, I imagine. He usually does wrap around it a little bit instinctively, even though the food item is already passed. That is going to be how they're going to hold their food sometimes. Even though he's not considered a constrictor, he will constrict sometimes. Come back over here. Somebody do the snake charming flute. Maybe we'll charm our snake. Maybe if he sees the rat, he will eat it. He's going to kind of be boring by being up there. I don't want that. He moved. This is stellar programming. Okay. He is ready to go. So he knows. See that? He knows. So I'm going to be very careful. Let's offer it to him. There he goes. Oh, yeah. Check that out. That was a really, really strong feeding response. Not that I'm surprised. And you saw that he kind of struck at the food item anyway, even before I was ready. But I was watching. Don't worry. I've done this a million times. Maybe not a million, but a lot. So that was pretty cool, huh? So he did wrap right around the rat. And again, I'm not going to be bringing any other snakes out at this time, because there is the smell of rodent in the air, and I don't want to be irresponsible. That is a very, very common way that people get bitten by their snakes, is by smelling like their food, because snakes use their sense of smell to sense the world around them. And so if they have the smell of rodents in the air or on my hands or anything like that, that is going to trigger them into a feeding response, pretty likely. So there's Jareth's head right over here by my finger. Hopefully you can see. There we go. If I adjust a little bit, his head is here, right here. And his body is wrapped around that rat. And I bet you anytime he's going to begin consuming it. Remember, snakes have a floating jaw system, and their jaw is kind of shaped like this now that I don't have any animal in my hand. And it can widen like this, and they can also widen like this, of course. A lot wider than I can demonstrate. And that's how they make room for such a large food item. It's pretty cool. He is awfully strong. What do you guys think? Yes. Okay. What do y'all think? Oh, look, the tail is even like up against the glass on the other side. That's so cool. What a cool view. I think he had a wonderful feeding response, which is why I usually have him make an appearance for the feeding days. He's going to make sure that it's passed away. It's already passed away, Jared. I don't know what to tell you. So snakes are wonderful. They are one of my favorite animals. In fact, they are my favorite animals. And he is a king snake. He would probably eat a snake if given the opportunity, but there's no reason to feed him some snakes in the care of humans because, as you can see, he's a great eater. I saw that. Sorry about that. Just ignore it for now. Yes. Ricky, if you're watching, if you could handle that, please, because I cannot. But if not, we'll just ignore it until we get done, and then we'll delete that. Don't worry. That's always a possibility on Facebook, isn't it? Oh, well. What are you going to do? So anyway, so snakes eat rodents most of the time, which is really, really good for us humans and other animals. So again, we want to leave them alone. And they'll leave you alone. Jared is finally positioning himself to eat, I think. So he's going to hold on to this rat. And sometimes it takes a minute for them to feel comfortable, like the animal would be passed away. So in nature, of course, they will be fighting back. And that's why it's really important to actually try to feed your animals frozen thawed prey, because the prey can be dangerous for your animals, your snakes, if you have a snake. So we want to make sure that he doesn't get hurt in the process, because rats and mice and certainly rabbits and all kinds of food animals will fight back because they want to survive too. So it's really a lot more safe for your snake to feed them a frozen thawed animal rather than a live animal. That's never really good unless you absolutely have to for some reason. Maybe you have a picky eater, like a ball python sometimes will be picky. So sometimes you have to, unfortunately, but we do recommend trying frozen thawed first, always. And you definitely, if you are feeding live for whatever reason, you never, ever, ever want to leave that live rat or mouse in with your snake unsupervised, because they can chew on your snakes and they can bite your snakes, and that can be very, very detrimental to your snake. Snakes can get infections very easily from that. Rodents have very strong teeth, which can chew through things like wood and other things like that, so they can certainly chew through an animal. And just not a good situation. So you want to do that supervised. If you are unsure of what to do, you can ask for professional help. There are pet consultants out there and other people that can help you. I wouldn't mind helping you myself if you seek out my help. All right. Oh, I'm so glad you like this and you find it interesting to watch this. I think so. It's so interesting to watch animals with their natural behavior, whether that be slithering around looking for something to do in there, or moving around in general, or eating. Eating would probably be, in my opinion, the coolest thing to see. That's a natural behavior. He's now positioning his head to be able to eat this rat. I don't know if you can see, but his head is right here, kind of pointing towards you guys like this, like that. Sorry, I can't get a little closer. This was the best way I could position him today to be able to show all the other snakes and also the feeding. I had to angle him in a certain manner to not have a whole lot of reflections on the glass too. So that's the best way I can think to do that. Although regardless, I think that was an awesome feeding response to see, even if you can't see this very well. And he looked really, really beautiful just slithering around being himself in there as well while I was talking to you guys. So I really like that. Sometimes we have axolotls out here on the table too, and other animals too. So here, once in a while, we don't just have snakes. If you're just tuning in and this is new, Oh, Tanja says, one of my balls will only, that's a ball python, guys, not just balls for you non-snake people. One of my ball pythons will only eat white rats. Picky, picky, picky. That tail, indeed. So pretty, right? Gorgeous. I love him. He is just beautiful. And again, this is how they're naturally colored in the wild. Isn't that incredible? So, yeah, some ball pythons just like one color of rat. Who knows? I think they just get set in their ways, don't they? And they're just very picky. Picky, picky, picky. Yes. So I think he's going to do what he just sometimes does, which is kind of hide what he's doing underneath his body. So I do apologize. But what can you do? I can't force him to do anything, can I? I'm certainly not going to mess with him while he's eating. That would be a terrible decision. What questions do you guys have about any of our animals? So today we met Jarrett, the desert king snake. That's what he is. And then we met Long, the Chinese beauty snake. Long means dragon in Mandarin. And then we met our ball python prince, the Pastave ball python. We also met Harley Quinn, the corn snake, and Slytherin, the California king snake. So much variety in snakes as well, which is one reason why I really love them. There are so many species of snake. My favorite species, that is really hard to pick. I don't really have a favorite species of snake, but I do love venomous snakes, and the green mambas are one of my favorites to look at. Certainly not to handle because they are very dangerous. One of the most dangerous snakes on the face of the planet. They are both from the green mambas. There's two kinds. There's the eastern and the western, and they're both from Africa. They're just gorgeous. Black mambas are also from Africa. So mambas are closely related to what we call elapids. So elapids are your mambas, your cobras, your coral snakes, things like that. Did you know that coral snakes are actually closely related to cobras? Coral snakes are actually the most toxic snake found in the United States, but they're usually very, very tiny and typically never attack humans. The only reason that you would get bitten by a coral snake is by either stepping on them with bare feet, which would be really rare, or by handling them. So if you handle a coral snake, if you handle a coral snake and they're able to take a nice big chewy bite out of you, then you could get envenomated. But please don't handle coral snakes if you are not an expert. I don't recommend that because that's just asking for trouble, right? But that is the most toxic snake found in the United States. The other types of venomous snakes that you can find in the United States are not just coral snakes, but you also have all of your rattlesnake species. There are several of them, of course. You've got your copperheads, which there are different types of those as well. And then you've got your water moccasin, which is also known as the cottonmouth. The cottonmouth is called the cottonmouth because when they feel threatened, they will actually kind of lean back like this and open their mouth really, really big. And the cottonmouth snake, or the water moccasin, is going to show you the white part of their mouth. And that's going to hopefully spook away their predators and scare away their enemies. They're trying to spook you away. They're not trying to harm you. They will if they have to because they're scared. But that's what that means. They're trying to say, get away from me, go away. And you should, because they are very toxic and very, very dangerous if messed with. Here is a good question, and I will answer you. Tanja says, do they all have the same heating requirements and lighting? No, they do not. No, they do not. So snakes don't really have lighting requirements. You can certainly put lighting on your snakes. You can use heat in that manner as well if you prefer a heat source from a lamp. Snakes do require heat most of the time, but some snakes don't require heat except for room temperature heat, but that's still a heat requirement, right? They're still going to require that at least somewhat. Snakes are cold-blooded like reptiles are, all reptiles are, so they do require some kind of heat source. But like I mentioned before with Long, our Chinese beauty snake, he doesn't really need any extra heat than what's in my home. So no, they're all going to be different. And it's very, very important to do your research on which snake you are actually housing. So for example, a king snake doesn't need much heat either. They're pretty low maintenance. But your ball pythons and your boa constrictors and some of your other snakes like that are tropical, not only are they going to need a good, strong heat source, at least half of their enclosure should have some heat on it, right? And the other should be like a gradient towards the cool side. That's something important for all reptiles, actually. The water should be on the cool side to keep nice and cool. If they want to cool down, they can get in their water, etc. and they're all going to have different requirements. It also depends on the size of your enclosure. If you have a smaller enclosure, you don't want to have a ton of heat because that can overheat the entire enclosure and you won't have that heat gradient. If you have a large enclosure, you're going to need a little more heat to help boost that side. Most snakes are going to need like a certain temperature to bask on or warm on. It can be just not basking necessarily with a lamp, but it can be from a heat source that's like a heat pad or a heat mat. So it really just depends. But no, most of them are all different. King snakes are pretty easy. Corn snakes are pretty easy to house as far as heat goes. They don't need a ton of heat either. The rat snake that we talked about. But our ball python friend, he's a little bit more complicated. So he also needs a heat gradient that's a little higher than those other snakes, of course, because he's an African kind of more tropical species. They also need to be misted twice a day as well. And what is misted? That just means that you spray them with some water. You're simulating a humid environment a couple times a day. And they have to be kept on the appropriate substrate as well to help hold that moisture in. So there's all kinds of things to research if you're keeping snakes, but some of them are easier than others. So no, they're not all the same at all. I think he has taken his sweet time to eat this rat. I should have begun a lot earlier than this, and I appreciate you guys sticking around for the program, even though it's so late. It's good to see each and every one of you joining us. And I hope you will share this video and watch it again and again as well. And we hope to see you another time here at Once in a Wild. We are going to plan to have another live stream at 3:30 p.m. Central Time on next Wednesday. We also have an additional live stream coming up next Wednesday as well. I believe it's going to be at 3:30, so we'll have that one first. This is next Wednesday. I forget what the date is, but it's next week on Wednesday. And at 3:30 p.m. Central Time, we're going to have a special guest here on the show that we're going to be interviewing and just talking to you on a live stream, just kind of side by side on virtually, not in person, but virtually, and we'll have it on the live stream. That'll be fun. And then we're going to have our regular show that I always do by myself at 6:30 p.m. Central Time after that. And then we also have another show coming up actually sooner than that. This Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. we're going to be collaborating with a very special company called Once Upon a Party, and we are meeting up with our special guest Moana. So the real Moana is going to be on the program as well, on a virtual program. We'll be side by side doing the program together, and we're doing a collaboration with us here at Once in a Wild and on their platforms as well over on, well, they're on the same platforms, which is Facebook and YouTube, but we're going to be collaborating at the same time and streaming at the same time on their pages too, which is Once Upon a Party. If you haven't followed Once Upon a Party yet, I recommend them, especially if you love Disney and you love Disney characters, and if you have any children that love Disney, I highly recommend them as well. So that's something that's coming up too. So that's coming up first this Saturday at 10:30 a.m. till around 11:30. We'll see how long we want to go till. It could be longer. Who knows? Live streams are live streams. Ooh, here he goes. He's going to pick up the rat a little bit more. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Oh, no. He's hiding from y'all. Trust me, it's cool. So, oh, look at all those cute little animal emojis. I love that. I think those emojis are getting like better and better all the time. That is so cute. Oh, great snake visit. I'm sure you loved it, and I'm glad you loved it. Yes, very cool. Yeah, we are having some really fun things coming up. So a lot to look forward to, and we hope to see you guys again for those live streams. I don't know if I should wait for him to finish. There we go. He is hopefully repositioning so you can kind of see it. Snakes take a long time to eat. Now this is actually when they're going to be their most vulnerable, is when they've got their mouth full, right? Because what's a snake's defense? It's going to be their teeth, right? They don't have any claws to scratch with. Right? They have no limbs. Some snakes do have tiny little claws near their vent, which is their cloaca, where they use the restroom. Not very many snakes have that, but ball pythons actually have little tiny fingernail-looking things next to their vent, which is really weird. But they certainly can't use those for defense or anything like that. So what they do for defense is biting. So right now he's got a mouthful of food. This is actually when he's going to be most vulnerable. I mentioned before that when snakes feel threatened, they might throw up their meal they've just eaten to be lighter and to be able to get away and less sluggish, etc. But it's also to free up a meal. Say they're at the end of the meal and they still have a mouthful. They'd rather survive than eat that meal because they can go a long time without eating. So if they want to regurgitate that meal and make room to be able to bite a predator, a potential predator, they will do so. They're going to survive. That's how the wild is. You know, a lot of people think that the wild is like all rainbows and butterflies and Disney movies. It's not. The wild is very, very brutal sometimes. It's the way of nature. It's natural. It's perfectly natural, but it's all about survival, isn't it? And we have predators and we have prey. So rats are definitely a good part of the food chain as well, and part of the ecosystem and a part of nature too. But if we get too many rats, then we have problems, just like any animal. If we get too many humans, guess what? We have too many humans sometimes, right? And humans cause a lot of trouble. We're probably the dirtiest and most diseased animal in nature, I think. You guys know that now, right? Goodness gracious. So any of anything that's too much of anything is a bad thing. That's what I'm trying to say. So we need predators in the ecosystem like snakes that do a wonderful job for us by hunting rodents and eating them for us. And then we don't have diseases in the ecosystem anymore. We have some, right? We're still going to have some, but the less the better. We certainly don't need any more diseases right now. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. He's going to finish here in a little bit. I didn't think this through. I didn't think it would take so long. I don't know why. You know, I've done this 100,000 times, but that's okay. We hope to see you guys again for our next program, which again, let's see, I guess our next program is Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. It's going to be great for the whole family with Moana. The real Moana is going to be with us, and she's really excited to meet you guys and to see some of our wonderful animals. We're probably going to have a variety of animals that day, not just snakes for the Moana show. Although you guys know, if you've seen Moana, that there is a shape-shifting character in that movie, so he can shapeshift into any animal he wants. So it's kind of appropriate for us, right? And we hope to have many more collaborations with Once Upon a Party and our Disney characters, our Disney character friends very, very soon as well. Let us know what you would like to see in other programming. I thought I would just have a snake program today, but that was my idea. If you guys have any creative ideas for any of our programming or posts or what we do in general, I would absolutely love to hear about your ideas. And if you have ideas, let me know in the comments down below, or you can direct message us on Facebook, on Instagram, which Instagram we're at Once in a Wild Zoo. The word zoo is attached to the end of that. You can DM us over there. You can also email me, Amanda@onceinawild.com. If you can't remember all these things and you don't want to look them up right now, you can go to onceinawild.com, and that's where all of our information is, including my number. You can give me a call anytime if you're interested in an animal program. There he goes. Can you guys see him eating? He's kind of behind his body there. His face is behind his body, but he is eating that rat even more so. There he goes. My favorite part is actually the end, so I'm going to let you guys see that even though we're going a little late today. I do apologize for us going so late. I can't believe how late it is. You know, if you know me, you know I can talk all day and all night about animals, especially snakes, my favorite. Okay, guys. You can do it, Jareth. You're doing great. He's like, this is amazing and delicious. I think he really appreciates being fed tonight. And anytime, right? He's kind of a glutton. Some snakes are gluttons. But that's just the way they are. Here he goes. Delish. Now, I said before a few myths about telling snakes apart from dangerous versus non-dangerous snakes. The best thing you can do is learn what kind of snakes you actually have in your own area. And then you will know the rest of them. Like you'll know the venomous ones, I mean. And then you know the rest of them are actually harmless. Now, I'm not saying you should harm the venomous ones. I'm saying you should leave them alone. All of them. But that's one way to help you identify a snake, is by learning the dangerous ones, and then you know the rest of them are perfectly fine. I do not recommend holding or handling any wildlife if you're not a professional, though. Definitely don't condone that. That is not great for you, and it's not great for the animal. The animal is going to be very, very stressed. Of course, I'm not talking about your expert herpetologists and biologists and everybody that's an enthusiast on animals. You guys are fine. I certainly have done so myself as an expert. So he is all the way at the end of the rat's hind end, and the tail is going to be next. Pretty cool. Hope you guys are enjoying this. Next time, since we don't have any more time, I actually did bring some videos, but next time I'll show those. That way you guys can see a little bit better. It's easier to show a pre-recorded video than it is on a live stream, because I never know what position he's going to be in to be able to eat. You can see the back legs there going into, he did eat it head first, by the way he should be. And the back legs are now about to be eaten as well. All the way down. So rodents are pretty streamlined if you know much about rodents. Most rodents I say rodents, but rats especially and mice, they can actually fit into small holes. So they fit into the snake's mouth pretty well. They're pretty streamlined. They kind of compress very easily. And it's all well designed in the circle of life, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Okay, he's about done. His skin is stretching out pretty well to be able to consume this large food item. This is pretty much as large as he can eat. A small rat like this. He either gets a small rat or he'll get 2 large mice for a meal. And he is definitely not thin right now, so we don't want to feed him too much or else he might get a little too chunky, and we can't have that. Believe it or not, it is very, very possible for snakes to become obese and overweight. Obese and overweight are the same word, same thing. But yes, they can become too fat. So you don't want to overfeed your snakes if they are crazy eaters like him that are never picky. You don't want to just offer food all the time because they're hungry. You want to make sure to regulate that really well. All right. Oh, a lot of people ask us what substrate we use, and if I didn't mention this already, is actually Cypress Mulch Blend, Cypress Blend Mulch. It's the No Float brand that I get over at Lowe's. It's about $2.99 a bag. It's a huge bag of it. Very, very, very good for your snakes, and also very safe. So if he were to accidentally consume like a little piece of this mulch, it would probably either come right out the other end when he uses the restroom, or he'd be able to kind of spit it out as he's eating. Very natural. Not anything that's going to be toxic. And what I like about this mulch is it's good for slightly drier weather animals. Not super dry weather animals like a sand boa. You wouldn't want to keep a sand boa on this because they need to be on something sandy-ish. Or maybe even like your aspen bedding or something like that. That's fine for a sand boa. But most snakes, most colubrids and boas and pythons can live just fine on the Cypress Blend mulch. And that will help you to, when you're missing them, for it to hold in some of that moisture, but it doesn't get too gross and wet to be able to be too wet. That's not good either. Okay, he's about done. He's circling back around. I'm sure you'll see his face here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and close. I hope you guys loved that. And we hope to see you next time here at Once in a While next week. And before that, on Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m., we're going to be broadcasting again on Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully you can catch that program with your kiddos. And maybe if you just like Disney, you can come back. Or maybe if you just like Once in a While, you can come be a fan of that program as well with Moana at 10:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. And also we do have, of course, our other live streams coming up on Wednesday, one at 3:30 and one at 6:30, which is our regular time. So I hope you guys really enjoyed our program today. And we love seeing your beautiful comments and your faces down below. And we hope to see you next time. Love you guys. Bye.
We are nothing close to ordinary, but we love to be your friend. Hold our hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing once in a while. Together. Once in a while. I wanna hear you say once in a while. Never fun for me and you.
Thanks once again, guys. If you like what you see, remember we do have tipping available on Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, and our Amazon wishlist, which is at onceinaWhile.com. We'll see you another time, and hope you enjoyed our snake talk today. Bye, guys.